Ladies and gentlemen, the first part of the story you're about to listen to is a rework from an interview I did with an individual, a whistleblower. He started discovering things. First, he was a data pusher, just logging things, making badges, and what have you. And then as he learned more, he got pulled deeper and deeper into the organization and a secret government project. This story has literally consumed part of what I do. I went and reworked it. I was going to release the original interview, but then I thought, wow, there's just something else here. So I hope you guys enjoy. Here is the first part of it. Stay paranoid, my friends.
The Quiet Ones. Prologue. No one noticed the first replacement. That's what haunted Daniel Mercer more than anything else. Not the screaming. Not the impossible anatomy. Not the smell of wet copper that lingered in every classified facility. It was that nobody noticed. Daniel had worked for 17 years as a digital forensic analyst inside a compartmentalized intelligence program officially devoted to continuity risk assessment. Unofficially, they investigated events that had no acceptable explanation. Aircraft appearing on radar with impossible trajectories. Entire towns suffering synchronized hallucinations. Military patrols vanishing from surveillance footage while leaving footprints in fresh snow. Most reports were explainable. Some weren't. The ones that weren't disappeared behind black folders marked with a symbol no agency admitted existed. 3 interlocking circles. No title. No department. Just a number. Project Orchid. Daniel wasn't curious. Curiosity got people transferred. Or erased. Then Agent Collins vanished. Not from the building. From existence. One Friday everyone joked about Collins burning coffee in the break room. Monday morning, nobody remembered him. His office belonged to someone named Harper. Personnel files had changed. Photographs changed. Security footage changed. Even Daniel's archived backups showed Harper standing where Collins should have been. Except, Daniel kept offline backups. Old magnetic tapes. Analog storage. Things impossible to remotely rewrite. On those tapes, Collins still existed. Smiling. Talking. Alive. Daniel thought he'd discovered history being manipulated. He was wrong. History wasn't changing. People were. Sub-level 8 lay beneath 600 feet of granite. Official maps ended at level 4. The elevator required 3 simultaneous biometric confirmations. The doors opened onto a hallway lined with walls that breathed. Not metaphorically. The black walls expanded and contracted in slow rhythm. As if lungs hid inside concrete. Daniel stared. One guard noticed. Don't. What? Don't look too long. Why? The guard's pupils widened until his irises vanished. Because it notices. Daniel laughed nervously. The guard wasn't joking. Inside Laboratory C, they showed him his clearance briefing. Except it wasn't a presentation. It was a person. An elderly woman sat in a chair. Perfectly still. Her mouth sewn shut with black surgical thread. Electrodes covered her skull. A scientist spoke calmly. Please ask your question. Daniel frowned. What is she? The woman answered. Except her mouth never moved. Her voice came from every speaker simultaneously. I am Record 42. Daniel stepped backward. The scientist smiled. She's been dead since 1989. Daniel stared. Her chest wasn't moving. No heartbeat appeared on the monitor. Yet her eyes followed him. Blinking, thinking, listening. Project Orchid had one purpose. Monitoring infiltration. Not foreign governments. Not terrorists. Something older. Something that arrived beneath the Arctic ice in 1963 after seismic equipment detected movement 2 miles underground. The military excavated expecting geological anomalies. Instead, they found a city. Not built. Grown. Buildings resembled organs. Streets pulsed with translucent veins. Doorways dilated like pupils. Everything alive. Every surface moist. Every wall warm. No bones. No steel. Only flesh pretending to be architecture. The expedition entered. 32 personnel. 9 emerged. Those 9 insisted nothing had happened. Medical scans confirmed they were healthy. Except, their skeletons had changed. Every bone possessed tiny hollow chambers. Like coral, something had rewritten them from within. Within 6 months, every survivor held positions of unusual influence. Military, politics, science, media. Not because they were promoted, because everyone simply believed they had always held those positions. Reality bent around them. They aren't invading. Those words came from director Helen Price. They're replacing. She projected MRI scans. Normal human brain. Then, replacement brain. At first glance identical. Except microscopic structures resembled branching fungus. Every neuron intertwined with black fibers thinner than spider silk. They copy memories? Daniel asked. No. They control minds? No, what then? Price hesitated. They become them. Silence. They don't possess humans. They consume identity. The original consciousness, she swallowed, is digested. Daniel reviewed autopsy footage. The first body looked human. Until the incision. No blood. Clear amber fluid spilled across the table. The chest cavity opened. No organs. Instead, hundreds of pale white ribbons. Moving, twisting, braiding around one another. Each ribbon possessed thousands of tiny mouths. The mouths whispered. Not randomly. The victim's childhood memories. Every birthday. Every first kiss. Every nightmare. The creature was literally eating the person's life. Digesting memory as nutrition. The surgeon vomited. The ribbons all turned simultaneously toward him. Every tiny mouth smiled. Replacements improved over time. Generation 1 couldn't blink correctly. Generation 2 had no fingerprints. Generation 3 forgot to breathe while asleep. Generation 4 cried clear mucus instead of tears. Generation 5, perfect. Almost. They avoided mirrors. Not because reflections revealed them, because reflections delayed. Half a second. Enough to glimpse something else. A shape unfolding behind human skin. Too many joints. Too many eyes. A mouth opening sideways. Then the reflection caught up. Normal again. Daniel began testing coworkers. Casual questions. Childhood stories. Shared jokes. Some answered perfectly. Others paused. Just slightly. As though downloading responses. Then came the smiles. Too wide. Teeth never touching. Eyes never participating. One afternoon he counted. 37 employees entered the cafeteria. 37 identical coffee orders. Nobody noticed. His wife did. Emily met him at home. Smiling. She kissed him. Her lips were cold. I missed you. Her voice sounded right. Almost. She forgot the nickname she'd called him for 20 years. She asked which side of the bed he slept on. She looked at family photographs like museum exhibits. Daniel watched her preparing dinner. Every knife she picked up bent. Not visibly. The steel leaned toward her. Like flowers toward sunlight. He checked the bedroom while she cooked. Inside the closet, he found Emily, curled into a ball. Alive. Barely. Her skin stretched paper thin. Hair white. Eyes swollen. She whispered, "Don't let her hear me." Daniel froze. Behind him, the bedroom door slowly opened. Emily stood smiling, holding 2 plates. "I made your favorite." The woman in the closet began crying. "No." The Emily in the doorway tilted her head. Every joint cracked, one by one, like popcorn. "I told you not to look." He ran. The thing followed. Not quickly, calmly, walking. Every neighbor emerged from their homes simultaneously, watching, smiling. No one blinked. Hundreds of eyes, tracking him. Every street, every porch, every window. Someone whispered, "You noticed." Another voice, "That's unfortunate." Then all of them spoke together. We preferred you asleep. Daniel escaped using abandoned storm drains. Military safe houses refused him. Every code rejected. Every contact replaced. The president appeared on television reassuring Americans after an economic speech. Daniel froze. The president's reflection blinked 3 times after the broadcast ended. Nobody reacted. He found Agent Collins. Or what remained. Hidden beneath an abandoned church. Collins had survived replacement. Sort of. His skin hung loose. Bones bent in impossible directions. His spine protruded through his back like fingers. His jaw had split into 4 sections. Yet he still spoke. They couldn't finish. What happened? They opened me. Daniel noticed stitches covering Collins from throat to waist. They put one inside. Collins smiled painfully. It got lost. Daniel stared. You mean? Collins nodded. My body keeps rebuilding incorrectly. Something moved beneath Collins' skin. A hand. Chapter 1. The man nobody remembered. The first sign that something was wrong wasn't a dead body. It wasn't a UFO. It wasn't a classified document stamped with words Daniel Mercer wasn't supposed to read. It was a coffee mug. Daniel stood in the break room on the 7th floor of the Federal Continuity Analysis Center, waiting for the ancient coffee machine to finish wheezing out something that vaguely resembled Colombian roast. Outside the reinforced windows, dawn spread over Washington, D.C., washing the city in pale gray light. Everything looked ordinary. Inside, nothing ever truly was. The mug sat in its usual place. White ceramic, a chipped handle, black lettering worn nearly smooth by years of washing. World's okayest datit belonged to Agent Nathan Collins. Collins was impossible to ignore. He talked too loudly, laughed too hard at his own jokes, and insisted on putting cinnamon in government coffee because he claimed it tricked the brain into thinking it tasted expensive. Every morning at exactly 6:45, he would wander into the break room, complain about traffic despite living 6 blocks away, then tell whoever was listening some story about his 12-year-old daughter beating him at chess. Daniel glanced at the clock. 6:46. No Collins. Strange. He poured his coffee. Still no Collins. By 7 o'clock, the break room had filled with analysts and technicians. Still no Collins. Daniel shrugged it off. Maybe the man had finally taken a vacation. At 9:13 a.m., Daniel noticed Collins' office. The blinds were open. The lights were on. Someone else was sitting inside. Daniel frowned. A young woman with auburn hair worked quietly at Collins' desk, surrounded by neatly stacked files. His family photographs were gone. The little ceramic dinosaur his daughter had painted was gone. Even the coffee stain Collins had accidentally burned into the desktop 6 years ago. Gone. Daniel knocked. The woman looked up. Can I help you? Where's Collins? She blinked. I'm sorry. Agent Collins. Her expression shifted from confusion to concern. I think you've got the wrong office. Daniel laughed. No. This has been Nathan Collins' office for years. She slowly stood. My name is Harper. Daniel waited for the punchline. None came. Who assigned you here? She frowned. I've worked here for 4 years. The words landed with unsettling certainty. Not defensive. Not sarcastic. Simply factual. Daniel looked around the office. Every book on the shelves belonged to Harper. Every certificate bore her name. Family photographs showed vacations Daniel had never seen. There wasn't a single trace of Collins. It was as if another person's life had quietly overwritten his. Who's Collins? Daniel heard that question 19 times before lunch. His supervisor asked it. Human resources asked it. Security asked it. Even his closest friend in the department looked genuinely puzzled. Daniel, are you okay? I've shared an office wall with him for 6 years. You've shared a wall with Harper. No, yes. No, Daniel. The concern in his friend's voice was real. You've always sat next to Harper. Daniel opened the personnel directory. No Collins. Employee database. No Collins. Payroll. Nothing. Building access logs. Nothing. Retirement records. Nothing. It was as though Nathan Collins had never existed. By early afternoon, Daniel convinced himself he was suffering some kind of neurological event. Stroke, tumor, early dementia. He quietly drove to Georgetown University Hospital and requested an emergency MRI. 2 hours later, a physician entered the examination room carrying perfectly normal brain scans. "I can't find anything wrong." Daniel rubbed his temples. "I remember someone no one else remembers." The doctor smiled sympathetically. "Stress can produce remarkably vivid false memories." It wasn't false. "When was the last time you took a vacation?" Daniel didn't answer. That evening he unlocked the front door of his townhouse. His wife Emily stood in the kitchen stirring tomato sauce. She smiled. "Long day. You remember Nathan Collins?" She looked over her shoulder. "Who?" Daniel's stomach tightened. "Nathan." She shook her head. "I don't think you've ever mentioned him." "He came to our barbecue." "No." "Christmas party." "No." "He helped us move." Emily walked over, placing a cool hand against his forehead. "You look exhausted." She wasn't pretending. She genuinely had no idea who Collins was. Daniel forced a smile. "Yeah, probably." Sleep never came. Instead, Daniel climbed into the attic just after midnight. Dust drifted through the beam of his flashlight. Plastic storage bins lined the walls. Christmas decorations, old tax returns, college textbooks, boxes of photographs. He found one labeled 2008 to 2016. Inside were hundreds of printed photographs, camping trips, office parties, birthdays, retirement ceremonies. He began flipping through them. Their company picnic. Daniel stood beside Collins, both laughing over a burned hamburger, while Emily rolled her eyes in the background. Daniel's hands began shaking. He grabbed another. Christmas party. Collins wore an ugly reindeer sweater. Another. Bowling night. Another. Retirement dinner. Collins was everywhere. Relief flooded through him. He wasn't crazy. He rushed downstairs. "Emily." She appeared at the foot of the stairs. "What?" Daniel spread the photographs across the dining room table. "Look." She studied them. For several seconds she said nothing. Then she looked back at him. "Danny." Her voice had become strangely quiet. "Who's standing next to you?" Daniel laughed nervously. "Collins." "No," she pointed to the photograph. "There isn't anyone there." His smile disappeared. Daniel looked down. The space beside him was empty. His arm rested around thin air. Every photograph had changed. Only moments earlier Collins had been smiling in each one. Now chairs sat empty. Hands reached toward invisible people. Conversations happened with blank spaces. Daniel's breathing became shallow. "No." He snatched another photograph. Empty. Another. Empty. Every single image had rewritten itself. The only evidence Collins had ever lived had vanished while the box sat open in front of him. Emily slowly reached for his hand. He jerked away. "No," he backed toward the wall. "No, I saw him. Danny, I saw him." Silence settled over the house. The refrigerator hummed. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Then, from somewhere above them, a man's voice whispered, "So did we." Both of them froze. The attic hatch was still open. Daniel slowly looked toward the dark square in the ceiling. His flashlight lay where he'd dropped it. Its beam still pointed across the attic floor. Something moved through the light. Not walking, crawling. Too low. Too many joints. For one impossible second, Daniel saw the silhouette of a human figure folded backward onto itself, limbs bending the wrong way as it silently crossed the attic floor. Then it stopped. The whisper came again, this time from directly above the hatch. He remembered. The ceiling gave a single, slow creak. Emily looked up. What was that? Daniel couldn't answer, because Emily sounded confused. Truly confused. As though she hadn't heard the whisper at all. Only he had. Above them, something shifted its weight. Then the house fell silent. Daniel stood beneath the open attic hatch for nearly a minute, staring into the darkness. Nothing looked out of place. Nothing moved. Eventually, He climbed the ladder again, flashlight trembling in his hand. The attic was empty, except near the center of the floor, where dust had lain undisturbed for years, was a trail of fresh impressions. Not footprints, fingerprints, hundreds of them, as though something with human hands instead of feet had crawled slowly across the attic searching. The trail ended at the far wall. There was no window, no door, just old wood. Yet the final handprint was wet. Daniel touched it. It wasn't water, felt warm, like skin. He pulled his hand away. The print had already begun to dry. As he backed toward the ladder, another thought crept into his mind, one far worse than the whisper. If Nathan Collins had truly existed, then whatever had erased him knew exactly one person still remembered. And now, it knew where he lived.